So this session is all about hybrid monitoring with SCOM MI and visualizing the results in SquaredUp with our awesome dashboarding product. So let me first start by introducing us both. So it was meant to be myself and Ankur. You all know me by now. I'm Bruce Cullen. I'm the Director of Products at Cookdown and the Director of Engineering at SquaredUp. Oh, and my slides are frozen. And I was meant to be joined, hopefully I still will be, by Ankur, who is a product manager for the SCOM product group. And so the first bunch of slides are his ones. So we'll see how we get on with me presenting them. This is the agenda for this session. To start off with, we're going to look at the evolution of the on-prem monitoring market. As you saw from Richard's session earlier, it has certainly changed over the last 10 plus years or whatever it has been since SCOM 2012 was released. We're going to look at the value proposition of SCOM MI, look at Azure observability and SCOM MI, look at who SCOM MI is exactly for, and look at how we visualize all of the above with SquaredUp dashboards. As I say, apologies in advance if I get stuff wrong, because these are not my slides. So first looking at the evolution of the on-prem monitoring market. Most organizations these days are undergoing a digital transformation. In practice, this looks like lots of people moving to the cloud. Now, this is a trend that has been happening for the last kind of 10 years, as Rich showed earlier. It's been happening in anger and in enterprises, I would say, from my experience over the last 3 years or so. And what that looks like in practice is increasing cloud adoption. 40 plus existing SCOM customers say that they're modernizing their on-prem infrastructure by moving some of their workloads or more to the cloud. And again, from my experience, that is really common. And some customers are targeting closing their on-prem data centers 100% to be fully in cloud. In fact, I know of a company who's actually doing this right now, just to not have data centers and space in the data center anymore. So a really interesting trends to see. Ankur, I see you're here. Let's add you to the
there
stream.
Was a power cut. There was a power cut in my house. So that's why I'm really, really sorry for being late.
It's all right. I've started off by introducing you, and I'm going through the slides.
Yes. So thanks. I'll take over now.
Please.
Yep. Cool. Thanks, Bruce, for covering up while I was not here, right? So basically here, what I'm trying to show is that a lot of the organizations that we are talking to, right, are undergoing a digital transformation, which means that what they basically tell us is that, see, we have a big on-prem setup and we are moving that setup to the cloud. And that means that all the SCOM infrastructure, all the workloads that are there will be eventually moved to the cloud. And how they and why they're doing that is because they say, okay, we have these contracts with these data centers and we want to close those data centers. Maybe in the next 3 or 4 years, we want to be closing those data centers. And so they say, give us a solution which basically allows us to monitor our workloads that are in the cloud, as well as move our infra to the cloud. Right, so that's the first thing that we are hearing. The second thing that we are hearing is, of course, I mentioned that they're closing their on-prem data centers, and they some of them even say we are going to be 100% in the cloud, and while some say that we are going to be hybrid, which is what the third point is, that some components are going to be in the cloud and some are going to be on-prem, and the duration for which they are in hybrid is something that they determine. They will determine in the next 1 or 2 years, because some say they will be 100% hybrid, and some say they will be 50% hybrid and 50% on-prem, right? With some workloads still being on-prem and some moving to the cloud. Right, so that's the key message that we have been getting, that most organizations are undergoing a digital transformation. Bruce, can you move?
That's been echoed in my discussions with customers as well. It does seem like hybrid is the way forward.
Exactly. That is exactly what we've been hearing for the past 2 years, right? That hybrid is the way forward. Now, even a lot of customers, and this is SCOM customers we're talking about, right? We have been talking to them, and they say that, okay, we use SCOM, we use on-prem, but we already know Azure, right? We are already aware of Azure. And 80% of the customers that are hybrid or planning to migrate use lift and shift, which means that the same workloads that are running in an Azure VM, and they were running it in on-prem previously. And then what they do is they extend their on-prem domains to Azure, which means the domain controllers are running on Azure VMs, right? A key point that I highlighted in the previous slide was that the majority of the customers will never be 100% migrated. Some of them will remain hybrid in the foreseeable future, right? And that also points to the fact that awareness towards Azure is already high. In fact, 50%, this is based on our research, right? 50% or 50% plus of SCOM customers have a high Azure usage, and few have the level of awareness, though, and the IT based mindset continues to prevail, right? Which sort of is proving to be a hindrance for us as we roll out private and public preview of the product, right? Because what behavior we are observing is that even though customers are using Azure, right, but then they are still using that SCOM mental model, that on-prem mental model onto Azure, which basically means they are trying to, they think that, okay, one person in the org will set up everything, which is not the case in Azure, right? Because in Azure, there are many lines of businesses that are there. uh, you know there are so many components which is handled by different departments. So the central governance that is an on-prem legacy is absent, uh, should be absent, but it continues to prevail, right? And of course, the last point, anecdotally, we are hearing that a lot of customers are trying to host their SCOM infra on Azure. And how they're doing this is basically they're deploying VMs on Azure, and then they are running these SCOM components, specifically the management server, the gateway server, the ops console, all on the SCOM infra. But they're facing limited success, I'd say, because the operational costs are really high. They still have to do all the SCOM things like patching, UR upgrades. Scaling is a tough thing. Managing the domain controller, managing the database, it's a tough journey for them. Even though they claim to be on Azure, right? They're not really on Azure because they still have to do the SCOM like things.
Makes total sense. I guess that's what happens when you put an on-prem tool in the cloud.
Yes, that's true. In fact, because that's where actually we got the idea from, right? Because 3 years ago we saw a few customers. I won't take their names, but uh, they came and they told us, you know what, we're hosting our SCOM infra on Azure, right? And we were like, okay, then why don't we just build a cloud native solution for you? And that's where the entire ideation started for SCOM MI, right?
I bet they bit your
Which
hand
leads
off at the
us.
opportunity to not have to do their own infrastructure, essentially, because that is a large old burden.
Yeah, that's actually true. Like when we'll talk about the value proposition of SCOM MI, right? Which in the next slide, if you go to, we are basically highlighting three value propositions of SCOM MI. The first one and the key one that we want to highlight is simplified management of SCOM infrastructure. And this basically means SCOM MI is a PaaS service, and SCOM is an on-prem product. So what we are targeting is that we all the management servers that the users have. The gateway servers are something we are trying to get in GA, right? Which the roadmap in future sessions will reveal. But the management servers, the databases, we are going to transfer all of that to Azure. And so what that means is anytime there's an update, anytime there's a bug fix, anytime there is a patch that we release, right? Users don't have to download URs, users don't have to scale their instance. It will all be done via click of buttons, sometimes automatically, like auto we are targeting auto patching by GA, and sometimes by a click of a button, right? So if we are talking about scaling up and scaling down, right? We'll have a button like just a one-click experience for that. So that's the first value prop of SCOM MI, right? The second one that we are hearing is that uh, we are preserving the SCOM investments in monitoring rules, right? A lot of the customers that we talk to say, okay, you know what, we want a cloud native solution. Then our first question to them is, why don't you use Azure Monitor, right? It's been there in the market for years. A lot of customers use it. uh, so why have you tried that? And they say, yes, of course we have tried Azure Monitor, we don't like it. And then we ask why, and then they say, okay, you know what, we're used to management packs, we want a solution that allows us to use our management packs, right? And so with SCOM MI, that is a target that we have. We want to preserve those SCOM investments that customers have made over the decades that they've been using SCOM, right? We want to preserve that in the new solution, right? Whether it's the alert rules, imagine having to rewrite all those hundreds and thousands of alert rules and MPs into Azure Monitor, right? It can drive anyone crazy. And so we want to preserve that, and that is what SCOM MI does. Now, the third one that we are targeting, the third value prop, is about consolidated ops experience. Basically, what we are saying is that a lot of customers nowadays use two solutions, right? They use SCOM for on-prem monitoring and they use Azure for Azure-based machines. And then of course they reach out to us and say, you know what, we need one single solution for all our workloads wherever they're located. And that's because managing two solutions, the resources to manage two solutions is very difficult. And so we heard that, and then what we are proposing is that observability information from SCOM MI will be integrated with Azure Monitor. So the entire ops console experience of SCOM MI will eventually move on to Azure Monitor to provide a single monitoring experience for the estate, right? Whether it's infra monitoring, platform monitoring, apps, and off Azure monitoring, right? Everything in the near future, I won't say by GA or anything, but our North Star goal is to have a consolidated ops experience.
I think that's a really awesome goal to have. Obviously, SCOM with its management packs has great power, but having a
Yeah.
fragmented monitoring tool set is problematic.
Yeah.
So bringing that stuff together will be really game changing, I think.
Yes. That's actually true. And that's what we in fact, management packs is just one aspect, right? um, Many customers we have talked to said, we want Arc connections also, right? We want to monitor Arc connected VMs. And so we thought, what better than to integrate it with SCOM MI, which is an upcoming solution. And we, as Arc's adoption increases in the near future, um, we will allow SCOM MI to monitor workloads wherever they're located, in Azure, off Azure, Arc connected VMs, AWS, GCP, other clouds, or even the edge, right? So that capability will come built in, right? And in fact, this is the capability that we are targeting for GA, right? That's why it says coming by this fall. Again, I don't want to tentatively give any date for GA, because then you'll hold me to gunpoint. But we're targeting GA sometime in the next 6 to 7 months, and that will include monitoring of our connected VMs. And of course we have the component of Azure Monitor integration, where we are talking about a single monitoring experience for the estate, which is what I had mentioned in the previous slide, right? um, about alert management, about a lot of other aspects of SCOM that you traditionally do via the ops console. We are targeting to bring it to the uh, Azure management platform.
I think that'd be really awesome. Both of those points would
Yeah.
be really interesting to see how those are received and adopted. But ultimately, that looks to me like a good step towards consolidating SCOM and Azure Monitor.
Yes. Yep. This is an important slide, right? Because again, what we are talking about is how SCOM MI fits into the entire scheme of Azure Monitor and uh, and its other parts, right? Um, I think it's a common misunderstanding between customers and partners and everyone who knows about SCOM MI that SCOM MI is competing with Azure Monitor, but that is a misunderstanding because the official name of SCOM MI is Azure Monitor SCOM Managed Instance, right? And so we are not in competition with Azure Monitor. Our target customers are different. Our capability set is very different, right? SCOM MI is a capability of Azure Monitor, and when customers who are using Azure Monitor can continue to do so, right? There are so many capabilities in Azure Monitor that they can already use. Now, when they want to monitor their workloads, when they want to have health models for guest workloads, that is where SCOM MI will come into the picture, right? Uh, you have your workloads that are hosted on-prem and Azure, and you download the management packs and you install it in your machines, uh, in the SCOM setup, right? And so you can be monitoring your workloads from within the Azure Monitor frame of the Azure Monitor product, right? As you can see in the diagram on the right, Azure Monitor contains capabilities for insights, for visualization, for analyzing, responding, integrating. SCOM MI will fit into one of these buckets, right? It will be used again for monitoring guest workload under the Azure Monitor umbrella of products. So
Very
this is
cool.
a very important misconception to clear up, because a
Mm.
lot of customers reach out to saying, "Oh, will SCOM MI replace Azure Monitor? What will we do? What do we use?" And I said, "No, it will not replace Azure Monitor. SCOM MI is a capability under Azure Monitor, and if you have workloads that you want to monitor, if they're on-prem or if you're already using SCOM management packs to monitor those workloads, then go ahead and use SCOM MI. If not, then you can always use Azure Monitor because it's a well-built, well-tested capability, well-tested product with thousands of users, right? So that's important. That's an important distinction I'd like to make.
I would say from where I'm sat, the fact that it's called Azure Monitor SCOM MI,
Yeah,
regardless of the how, is not just a symbolic gesture. It's clear
yeah,
that's your direction of travel, which is really really
yes,
cool. I noticed
yes.
you're missing a SquaredUp logo on this slide under Visualize, but we can talk to that later.
Yeah, we can talk about that later. Of course, SquaredUp is an important part of SCOM, right? Because SquaredUp gives SCOM that visualization capabilities that SCOM so lacks today, right?
Right.
So yeah,
Yeah,
so
I
I'd
couldn't
I'd
agree
like
more.
to yeah, I'd like to highlight this, right? Who is SCOM am I for, right? Again, a lot of the attendees, I think, are customers, a lot are partners who have customers who are asking them about SCOM am I. Um, of course, everyone is free to use SCOM am I when it releases, right? Our In our mind, right, who is the ideal customer for SCOM MI would be someone who is hybrid, right? They are in the process of migrating to Azure, and that is why they're going to be hybrid until they complete the migration process, right? So maybe today they have an on-prem setup, and they say, okay, you know what, we need to move to Azure, and so they start by lifting and shifting, maybe 10% of the workloads to Azure, which means that they are in a hybrid state with 10% being on Azure, 90% being on-prem. And despite them being migrating their workload, they would still like to monitor all those workloads, right? And so that is who our chief customer for SCOM MI is, right? These customers would have built a base understanding of Azure and analyzed all the prereqs as specified by Azure Migrate, right? And of course they would not like to invest in additional technologies during migration because they are usually legacy customers, maybe banks, and all these enterprise customers are really slow to move, right? And so of course adopting any additional technology would be a no go for them, right? And so in such situations, SCOM MI would be very appealing to these type of customers. The second set of customers that we think SCOM MI would be a good fit for are those who are permanently hybrid, right? Which means that they have some workloads that are on-prem and some in Azure, and these customers would typically use Azure Arc to extend the control plane to manage their on-prem workloads, right? And as I mentioned before, Azure Arc monitoring, Azure Arc based machines is something which we are incorporating in this SCOM MI. In fact, in GA, we'll have that capability ready. And so for those customers, because they understand Azure Arc and they're willing to invest in setups like the resource bridge for managing the hybrid workloads, right? SCOM MI would be a good fit for them in such a situation, right?
I can see cases where customers start off in the first persona, so they're on the path to completely migrating, completely migrate, and they never quite make it, so they end up falling into category 2. But the good news is you have an answer for that too, which is awesome.
Yes.
So moving on then. To making sense of the data, essentially, and that process of during migration. Obviously, SCOM is an amazing tool. It's great at what it does and is a fantastic monitoring tool. But as we've already kind of alluded to, it's really hard to make sense of the data from SCOM natively. And what about in the case we've got multiple management groups, when you've got an on-prem SCOM management group and SCOM managed instance? Maybe you have a tiered network and you have different SCOM deployments in different sections of the network. What then? And obviously, while you're doing your migration, which, let's face it, in an enterprise isn't going to be an overnight thing, it could be a process of months and even years. You need to be able to see all of that stuff the whole time. And then there are tools that aren't even SCOM. How does that look and how does that work? That's where SquaredUp comes into the picture, visualizing the data from both SCOM on-prem and SCOM managed instance, and of course, all of your other tools. So that's what I'm going to show. So I made a hilarious joke there about there being a missing SquaredUp logo. Well, we are in the process of fixing that right now. We're looking at building something with the SCOM product team in the Azure portal that will connect those two worlds, which I'm not going to show you right now because we're not quite ready to show you just yet, but it's something that's in the pipeline. But regardless, what I am going to show you is our product. So let me just find my browser quickly and get into SquaredUp. Over the sort of confusion and moving around Windows, it looks like I've closed it, so I'm going to show you this from logging in, but that's okay. Oh, no, I'm already logged in. That's not too bad. So what we're looking at now is SquaredUp. We're looking at the cloud product, not the dashboard server variant. And the first thing you will see is there are loads and loads of tools down the left-hand side here. We're not just looking at a tool that's capable of doing SCOM. You can see here, I've got multiple SCOM management groups connected. I also have SCOM managed instance connected. And to connect SCOM managed instance, if I in fact go to create a new plugin, new data source, set up a new one, I'll show you what the process looks like. So these are all of the possible data sources. If I search for the word SCOM, we can see SCOM managed instance. And essentially, we take a very similar approach to Power BI to connect into the data by connecting to the data warehouse. So essentially, it's credentials and a URL. Now, because we're connecting to SCOM managed instance rather than SCOM on-prem, that's all that's required. There's no agents to install. There's no anything else. It's just direct connection. Obviously, access has to be in place for this to work. And when that is in place, you can do things like this. So this is here's one I prepared earlier, style dashboard that pulls together some of the most important bits and pieces from Windows and Linux servers that I'm monitoring with SCOM MI. So we have here the classic memory, CPU, and disk. We will have two, as well as network bandwidth, as well as our SCOM alerts here. So obviously that's slightly cheating because that was a pre-built dashboard. So I'm going to show you how easy it is to add some things to this dashboard. So I pop this into edit mode. I'm going to click add on a tile here, and we're going to add some data rather than image or text. And the first thing we're asked to do is to select a data stream. And here's my large list of data streams. But the one I'm interested in is going to be my SCOM managed instance down here, which I will click. And the thing I'm really missing from this dashboard is my computer states, my health states. So in this case, it really is as simple as just clicking it, though it is possible to refine and filter in the shaping pane of the process. If you want to group by health state or by name or something, you could do that here, and then give it a name. So let's call this health state. And that is it, really. It makes it really, really simple to create dashboards pulling together data from SCOM and SCOM MI. Now, when we're obviously in real life rather than in a demo lab, we haven't just got SCOM and SCOM MI. We've got multiple tools. And that is where it's really vital to be able to surface insights from multiple tools. And that's what I'm about to do on this dashboard here, where we've got our Windows Server Health, along with our SCOM MI Enterprise Application Alert data. We've got information from New Relic, Dynatrace, CloudWatch, build information from Azure DevOps. We've got even the health from our Grafana dashboards and our Azure cost. So pulling it all together is then super, super important. This is just to illustrate kind of the power. And it's just as easy with on-prem SCOM as it is with cloud. With on-prem SCOM, it's a very similar process to go and add a data source. I'm just going to search for SCOM again. You can see I've already got a data source connected into a different workspace that isn't in this one. So I could just add one I had earlier, but I'm going to click into this one here, SCOM. And this is my on-prem one. And you're not really asked for that much. You're asked for a management server name, but you're also asked for an agent group. So we have a small lightweight agent that's installed within your environment that connects to SCOM with the credentials that it runs as, essentially, to gain access to it. And so we can gain access to SCOM on-prem and SCOM cloud to really unlock the power of SCOM during transition, but also afterwards. So really powerful tool. I didn't want to go on for too long about it because I could quite happily talk for a 45-minute session on just SquaredUp itself. I wanted to make sure we leave some time for questions. So what I'm going to do now is jump ahead in slides, and we're going to head to Q&A because there are some questions coming in via LinkedIn. So I'm going to slowly put these up on screen. So the first question, Ankur, is for you, and it's this one from Stoyan, who was up earlier. Will the focus of SCOM MI be on workloads moved to the cloud, or will it also include monitoring capabilities regarding cloud-native technologies?
Can you okay, I think my screen's a bit slow. Okay, now I see the question. Will the focus with SCOM MI be on workloads moved to the cloud, or will it also include monitoring capabilities regarding cloud-native technologies? See, I think as I mentioned previously, right, the focus of SCOM MI will be on workloads that are on-prem and those that are migrating to the cloud, right? So you can break this down into two things, right? SCOM MI will be for those people who migrate their SCOM infrastructure to the cloud with all their workloads still being on-prem. At the same time, if there are customers who do migrate some of their workloads also to the cloud, right, then we will be pitching SCOM MI to them as well.
Makes total sense.
Does that
Thank you.
answer?
Good answer. Next question.
Yeah.
I think it does. Next question, which you have definitely answered. So this, I think this did come in before the slide came up, but I'll ask it again just in case. Which is, how will Azure Arc play a role in SCOM MI in this?
Yes, I think I mentioned Azure Arc quite a few times during the presentation, right? So basically, any machine that has been extended to the cloud via Azure Arc can be monitored by SCOM MI, right? In GA, in fact, that's why coming by this fall, right, we will have the capability of adding all those Arc-enabled machines to the cloud so that you can monitor them.
Sounds good. Yeah, that message did come through. So I have a question from me on that, which is, is sort of how will that work, essentially? Is the idea that that's an integration, or will that be an agent-based process? or is that still a
No,
TBD?
yeah, it's see, we are deciding it. It will mostly be an integration, because the agent that we are using is still going to be the same SCOM agent, right?
Mhm.
So again, don't quote me on this or anything, but it's going to be an integration,
That makes sense.
most
Makes total
probably. Yeah.
sense. All right, next question up, which is not from me, it's from the community, which is from Peter. With SCOM MI, are you agents updates in Azure? Great, but in a hybrid situation, could SCOM MI push out those updates to on-prem servers that are monitored via SCOM MI?
What are RU agents?
I don't
RU
know.
agent updates in Azure? Great. Um, okay, I understand the second part of the
I
question,
get
right? Um,
the
Basically,
sentiment makes sense. And Peter, if you could
yeah.
clarify, I'll put your answer on screen, but I'll let you answer the second part in the meantime.
Yeah, I think the second part, what he's asking is, we have the updates that are done on the cloud, right? Are we pushing them to on-prem servers that are monitored? So my answer is that, see, in the long run, we will push, but I think in the next 6 months to 1 year, right, when GA is released, we are not going to be pushing upgrades. In fact, the upgrade mechanism is going to be only for the databases, for the SCOM management servers, and again, there might be other components which I don't want to reveal right now. But yeah, if you're talking about on-prem agents, so at this stage we are not exploring pushing upgrades for them. That might come in soon, though. Again, it's a matter of time.
Makes sense. All right.
Yeah.
This one, next question you have answered, but I will put it up on screen again. So if Arc is on, so if Arc is on an on-prem machine, does that mean no SCOM agent? Is the question.
I No, the SCOM agent, I think that's similar to what you asked, right?
It
Are we
is
doing it
indeed.
by agents or integration? And then I'll say, yeah, the SCOM agent is still going to be there.
Yep, you've answered that one. Let me see what else. That is exactly the same as my question. Let's see what else there is. What have we got? Lots of commentary on that.
Yeah.
Here we go. Here's the next one. Is Microsoft pitching SCOM MI for greenfield customers who may have never used SCOM before, not just for protecting your investment or using legacy MPs? Good
Yeah, I
question.
sort of covered this during the presentation also. We are not stopping anyone from using SCOM MI, right? Whether it's greenfield or brownfield customers. Our target at this stage are those customers who have already used SCOM, who are currently using SCOM and are going hybrid, right? Because again, we highlighted that there are a lot of customers who have made investments in SCOM, and so they would want to move those to the cloud, and so that is our initial target, I'd say. Of course, if there are any greenfield customers, they are free to use it and monitor their workloads. We'll be more than happy when that happens.
Makes sense. Cool. And then I think the final question, if there are any other questions, please keep them coming via LinkedIn, is this one here, which is a very good question. Do we know the pricing model for SCOM MI yet? This was going to come up at some point.
Yeah, of course. See, the pricing is something which a lot of customers have reached out to me, right? We have finalized it. We are in the process of making it public. The process of making it public from a Microsoft angle takes a few months because of internal processes we have to follow. But yeah, in a few months you should see the all this information. And Mark,
Makes
I think it's
sense.
been a long time since I've heard from Mark. I
It's good
think
when you
Mark
know.
from AT&T, if I'm not mistaken. I'd heard from him. He was one of the first customers we had talked to.
That is very cool. It's good when you're on a first name basis with some of these
But
people
yeah,
that are
that's
coming in for
my
SCOMathon. Well, those I think are all of the questions that we
it's
have
yeah.
right now. So with that in mind, I think it's going to be over to a break. next. So this is where I will say thank you very much, Ankur, for joining me. I'm glad we styled out the power cut bit, and you were still able to make it, and we could present your session.
Yes,
I hope
yes.
the community is excited as to what is coming in SCOM MI as I am. It's clear, a clear piece of strong direction that's being set, bringing SCOM MI and Azure Monitor together. I hope the community agrees, and I look forward to discussing it in the panel discussions that will follow later on today. So thank you very much again, Ankur. And we'll leave it there and go to our compares for a break. Thank you.
Thank you.